Hare Krishna. Welcome to the lockdown program with Krishna under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill. Today we are reading and discussing the most beautiful Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Hare Krishna, Pandava Prabhu Bhagavati Mataji Amit and Prakash.
Hare Krishna, Karanga.
Hare Krishna, Amit. Are you okay?
I am well. Karanga, thank you. Okay. Karanga,
a birthday coming up?
I do. It's my auntie's 80th birthday party tonight.
Okay.
They surprised us. Yeah, they did a Zoom. They're going to do a Zoom later. So it's her 80th. It's going to be at 7:30. I didn't know about it until they were going to surprise her. Yeah, until yesterday they told us.
So you're going to stay for half an hour?
Yeah, I thought I'll join you guys for half an hour if that's okay.
Yes, thank you for being here. We have apologies from Vaishana Mata. She's not feeling very well. She might join later. We have apologies from Samir and apologies from Ben. So we are quite thin on the ground. But nevertheless, Pandava Prabhu, Bhagavati Mataji, Kirtan if you can.
Hare Krishna. Looks like all apologies.
Right, yes, looks like. I'm happy you are here, at least. And not also apologies.
We would like to apologize. We will stay only for 40 minutes.
Okay. So, maybe what to do? We shall see.
Yes. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you.
So let's see who is with us so far.
Well, just Kirtan and then we shall see.
Yes. Okay, so we will try to sing a tune
enthusiastically.
We'll try our best. We'll try to sing the tune that you might have heard before. If not,
okay.
It's very sweet.
Okay, microphone is all yours now.
Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namah Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Vishatane Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Beautiful tune. Yes, I know that tune, at least the first part. It is quite difficult playing that tune, getting into the second part, and then coming back to the first part. There is some struggle, right? Because then...
Yes, we haven't practiced,
Yes, that's happening easily here. Anyway, thank you so much. It's a beautiful tune, and I have a feeling we're going to hear that tune more often. Okay, Prabhupada Nectar is next on the program. Pandava Prabhu, you have anything prepared? I have 3 short quotes, but I would say if you have anything from Srila Prabhupada's memories, then we would like to hear.
I have all Prabhupada Nectar books, so no problem.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, here's one, not so long. Usually, Srila Prabhupada accepted devotees for initiation based on the temple president's recommendation, but sometimes he personally interviewed devotees to see if they were fit. At least that seemed to be his intention in Los Angeles when he called Shubhananda Das, Srinath Das, and another devotee into his room in June 1971 before awarding them their Brahminical initiation. Srila Prabhupada asked first Shubhananda, "What is your conception of Krishna?" Shubhananda replied, "He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And he enumerated Krishna's 6 qualities: all strength, all beauty, all knowledge, all wealth, all fame, and all renunciation. "Thank you," said Srila Prabhupada. Then he turned to Srinath and asked, "Who is Lord Chaitanya?" Srinath replied confidentially, "Lord Chaitanya is the most magnificent incarnation of Krishna." "No," said Srila Prabhupada. Srinath was surprised. Not incarnation? Prabhupada said, "No, he is Krishna himself." At first, Srinath thought of defend himself, remembering how Prabhupada used the word incarnation for Lord Chaitanya in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, But then he realized that he should not argue with the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada was correcting and refining his improper understanding. Then Srila Prabhupada briefly explained that there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Have you read the Bhagavatam? Prabhupada addressed all three of them and they nodded yes. Have you read the chapter on incarnation and expansions? They again nodded and said yes. Krishna is the source of all incarnations and expansions. Thank you. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada, they said upon leaving. Jaya, Prabhupada replied. Conferring among themselves, the devotees agreed that Srila Prabhupada's requirements seemed very little. They had not been devotees very long, and they had been born and raised in the degraded Western culture. Yet it had been so simple. Srila Prabhupada only asked, do you know who Krishna is? Who is Lord Chaitanya? How are they different? It required no great learning or austerities, but faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So these were days when Srila Prabhupada was delivering mercy very easily, but it seems like they must have acquired some good fortune in order to meet such a unusual person like Srila Prabhupada to be initiated. Anyway.
Jai, Hare Krishna, beautiful pastimes. Thank you very much, Pandava Prabhu. I read something and you prepare another one in the meantime. It's very short, very, very short. European and American civilization. So, European and American civilization will be finished on account of this sinful activity of killing the cows. That's all. On account of this sinful activities of killing the cows, civilization will be finished. And there is another one concerning the taste of bliss. Every one of you should be thoroughly convinced of the power of the Hare Krishna mantra to protect you in all circumstances and chant accordingly at all times without offense. Then advancement will be swift and you will gradually come to see everything clearly, so that you may act for the pleasure of the Lord without uncertainty. When one is spontaneously engaged in this way, always in the service of the Lord and anxious to avoid all mundane activities, he is actually experiencing the taste of bliss in Krishna consciousness. This is from a letter in January in 1971. And a last one about the Rasa Leela. Welcome, Samir. I thought you were not coming tonight, so I'm happy you are here. Hare Krishna. Obviously, what you meant to say is that you are late. Okay, I misread that. Hare Krishna. Rasa Leela. Something on the Rasa Leela. Here it is. It is from a lecture in Los Angeles in 1968. So, this discussion of Rasa Leela is the summit of Krishna consciousness. Of course, Rasa Leela means Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. So, this is the summit of Krishna consciousness. It is not ordinary thing. They are purely spiritual. There is nothing material. But because we are not completely free from the material concept of life, we may think that Krishna's Leela is something like this material. So that is an offense. But that is the ultimate goal, to understand Krishna's Rasa Leela. But you have to wait for relishing that Krishna's Rasa Leela to become more perfect in Krishna consciousness. Anartha pagamam. Anartha means when one is freed from all anarthas. But it is so nice. Even those who are with anarthas, misgivings, if they are devotee, if they have got full surrender unto Krishna, so they also will derive benefit. Hare Krishna. Okay, back to you, Pandava Prabhuji, for one more memory. Hare Krishna, welcome Samir, welcome Rashmi, welcome Amit, Dharm, Prakash, Pandava and Bhagavati Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One more. In September 1976, a circus magician visited the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan and showed Prabhupada and the devotees his repertoire of tricks. Hearing that Prabhupada had agreed to see the magician, Prabhupada's friend Bhagat Ji hurried to Gurukula to gather all the students and teachers. Within minutes, most of the temple leaders, teachers, and Gurukula boys gathered in Prabhupada's room to see the fun. Prabhupada sat pleasantly behind his desk and asked the magician what he could do. The magician placed a coin in Srila Prabhupada's hand. When the magician commanded go, the coin somehow slipped out of Prabhupada's hand. Can you make the money come? Prabhupada joked. No, the magician replied. You can only make the money go, said Srila Prabhupada. The magician then produced boxes in which different colors suddenly appeared in different slots. He also had games with feathers. He would take a white feather, rub it, pull it with his fingers, and it would turn into many different colors. Several times he asked Srila Prabhupada to help him with the tricks. Coins appeared from Prabhupada's ears, and Prabhupada laughed at the illusion. But some of the devotees felt uneasy that their spiritual master was being made the object of the mystification and tricks. Srila Prabhupada seemed to enjoy it, but after a while he deliberately changed his mood. What about the miseries of life? Srila Prabhupada asked the magician. Can you make these disappear? Birth, death, disease, and old age? The magician replied submissively, no, that I cannot. All these words, the magician sat down. At these words, the magician sat down, and Srila Prabhupada took the superior position and said, but I can make these things disappear. That is the real magic. The magic show ended, and Srila Prabhupada spoke his realized transcendental wisdom to the magician and all the assembled devotees. Srila Prabhupada then gave the magician a garland and distributed sweets to everyone in the room.
Thank you.
That pastime is kind of known sometimes.
I never heard that before.
I've heard this, but maybe in a different version.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
I could say I've saw because I'm in one of the groups related to spiritual wisdom of India, and somebody posted just like a short video of some yogi who was playing with fire, and he finally put his head into the fire for quite a long time, and then coming out of this unburned and safe and sound, and everyone was just so happy. So looks like many people are still tricked by different magics and shows, and they are not aware of spiritual wisdom and real understanding. So what to do?
Hare Krishna. I know from the very beginning of that pastime you just read that Srila Prabhupada makes a connection with the illusion of this material world in some way or another. Yes, okay, Hare Krishna. So, that was Prabhupada Nectar. Let's get right to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It is in the chat. We're reading the 12th verse of the 9th chapter of the first canto. And I would like to ask Amit, because Amit has to go at past. Do you still have enough time to read that, or is it already too late, Amit?
Let's have a look at it, Prabhu. I'm just loading it now.
It's a shortish purport.
Yeah, no problem. It'd be nice to do something, if I can get the paragraph in. It's
Okay.
fine if it takes the 5-10 minutes. I can.
Yeah, okay.
They don't mind me. Bear with me. I'm just loading it up now. What's the purpose again? What's the
12. 1, 9, 12.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. 1.912. Aho custom aho nayayam.
Niyayam.
Yad yayam dharma nat.
Yuyam. Not yayam. Yat yuyam.
Yat yuyam. Dharma nandana. Jiv vitum nahahata klistam. Vipra dharma she chasta leha.
Translation.
This Matava said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified."
What are you reading? I have something different. Bhishmadeva said. Or you?
Bhishmadeva said, yeah. Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under these tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God and religion. Perfect. Maharaja Yudhishthira was disturbed due to a great massacre in the battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishmadeva could understand this, and therefore he spoke first of the terrible suffering of the Maharaja Yudhishthira. He was put into difficulty by injustice only, and the battle of Kurukshetra was fought just to counteract this injustice. Therefore, he should not regret the great massacre. He wanted to point out particularly that they were always protected by the Brahmanas, the Lord, and the religious principles. As long as they were protected by these three important items, there were no cause of disappointment. Thus, Bhishmadeva encouraged Maharaja Yudhishthira to dissipate his despondency. As long as person is fully in cooperation with your Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnanas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency. However, trying the circumstances of life, Bhishmadeva is, as one of the authorities in the line, wanted to impress this point upon the Pandavas.
Thank you, Amit. Question to you or anybody, what is despondency?
I think despondency means to feel guilty. I'm guessing. I think with this massacre, they felt that they did do the right thing. It's a lot of suffering.
Okay, I have here a dictionary meaning low spirits from loss of hope or courage, dejection.
So it's a sense of guilt, I think.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything to be said about this purport or verse? I think it's quite straightforward. Or you want this?
It was interesting because I think, this is a very fine, like there was massacre, there was real physical massacre here. So it's a very delicate subject to feel that, if somebody, you went out and somebody got killed, there would be a guilt, people would feel, everybody would feel that. But in this one, it's almost because it was following the Krishna, then you shouldn't feel guilty. But I think it's quite tough because I think no matter how you feel, you would feel guilty. I think it's human nature to feel like that.
Yes, very nicely said, Amit. Yes, of course, the following verses will highlight this topic even a bit more. And we have recently discussed that from a material point of view, yes, this feeling guilty and feeling responsible for that massacre, that is one thing. From a spiritual point of view, or the higher truth is that Krishna wanted to rid the earth of this corrupt Kshatriya class, and has made arrangements that all corrupt Kshatriya class are assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And that was his plan, and Yudhishthira was just an instrument, as much as Arjuna was just an instrument in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, thank you, Amit.
Okay.
You can go to your birthday party. Have some chant Hare Krishna at least once, or have some say Hare Krishna. That would be nice.
Probably when we all meet, we always say Jai Shri Krishna.
That's okay. That's nice. Jai Shri Krishna. You can, everybody says Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. When it comes to your turn, why don't you say Hare Krishna? Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna, both.
Yeah, we also have devotees in our family as well. There's a couple of people which they devote. Yeah, I've met them all.
I'm not surprised, because you are a devotee, and surely there must be other devotees in your family.
Yeah, with Krishna among our cousins and everybody.
Beautiful. Jai, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you, Amit. See you back on Wednesday, hopefully.
See you Wednesday. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's move on to text 13. What about you, Samir? Can you give us a reading of text 13? You came a bit later. Do I need to post the link again? I can do that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Let me just see if I have it. I think, yes, I have it. Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, just about.
Oh, it's not very clear.
It's okay at the moment.
Okay, if there's any problem, let me know.
Okay.
Samstiti tirathe pando pratabala prajavatu yasmat kriti bahun krisan prapatyato kavati muhu. And the purpose by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As far as my daughter-in-law, Kunti, is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal. Also, because of your actions. The sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of her early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her sufferings continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence, and this one has to tolerate without being disturbed.
Hare Krishna. Okay. That last sentence. What's that Bhagavad Gita verse? Everybody must know.
Is it like the winter and summer seasons?
Yes. Do you know the Sanskrit? You should know. You should learn that. It's a standard verse. Matra sparshashtu kaunteya shitoshna shukadukata agamopaino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Translation. Are you there, Samir?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. What's the translation? In your own words, if...
Okay. As summer and winter seasons come and go, the same is with happiness and distress, and one should not be affected and be equipoised.
Not exactly. What? Where does it come from, this happiness and distress? They arise from sense perception.
Yes, sense perception, that's right.
And one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Learn to tolerate them. Right? Because there's nothing what we can do about it. We have to learn. So whole translation goes like this. O son of Kunti, a non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. That's also important. It's non-permanent. It's changing. And the disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception or sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Okay, thank you, Samir. I think we can move on to text 14. And I would like to ask Dharm to give us a reading of text 14. If that is okay, Dharm. Starting with Sarvam. Are you there, Dharm? No sound? Okay.
Hold on.
Text 14.
Text 14. Just check my microphone's plugged in. Yeah. Okay. Sarvam kala krikam manye bhavatam jayad priyam sapalo yad vase loko vayo iva ganavali.
Have you studied this verse? Your Sanskrit is improving greatly.
It's a bit on and off. Sometimes I study it, then I forget it. I need reminding all the time.
If you have time in the week, you can just, when we stopped at a particular verse, you can just go over the Sanskrit of the next 5-6 verses, and sure, there will be one which you will be reciting. Okay, translation.
Translation. In my opinion, this is all due to the inevitable time under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Srila Prabhupada. There is control by time all over the space within the universe, as there is control by time all over the planets. All the big gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable kala or time controls even the action of the air and other elements. Everything, therefore, is controlled by the supreme kala, a forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. Thus, Yudhishthira should not be sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Everyone has to bear the actions and reactions of time as long as one is within the conditions of the material world. Yudhishthira should not think that he had committed sins in his previous birth and is suffering the consequence. Even the most pious has to suffer the condition of the material nature, but a pious man is faithful to the Lord, for he is guided by the bona fide Brahmana and Vaishnava, following the religious principles. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. Even the great control of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time, despite being a follower of the religious principles.
Thank you, Dham. Krishna is explained here is time. Which Bhagavad Gita verse comes to mind? Also a famous verse. And as that's a question for anyone. Samir? Anyone? About Krishna being identified with eternal time.
Prabhu. Is it the one that for non-devotees I come as death? Can you hear me?
No, you're breaking.
I was saying, is it the one where the Krishna comes as death to non-devotees?
Yes, what is a verse? What's the verse? Anybody can find that verse. It starts with, time I am the destroyer of all the worlds. I think it is. Yeah, that is the text. Anyone has Bhagavad Gita? Say 1132. 1132. Anyone has Bhagavad Gita in front? Rashmi, have Bhagavad Gita in front? 1132.
Yes, Prabhuji. Give me 1 minute.
Yes, please read the translation. Because we just with Amit, we had, he mentioned that everybody would feel guilty, dejected in such a situation when one is in the center, or it appears like because of one's sake, millions of people have been killed.
What do you want me to read? The Sanskrit?
The translation. No, just a translation.
The blessed Lord said, time I am destroyer of the worlds, and I have come to engage all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain.
Hare Krishna. You have the original Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada in front of you?
Yes, this is the original one.
Because I have the edited version on the mobile. It is quite different, a little bit. Whenever the Blessed Lord said that is the original Gita, it has later on been edited. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. The meaning is broadly the same, but the translation is quite a bit different. Okay, that is an important verse. So Krishna is the personification of time. We can move on. Rashmi, will you take the next text 15?
But Prabhuji, you know what Samir Prabhu said about the for the non-devotee Krishna comes as Kala? That is also a verse. I have recently come across it. Which class I cannot remember. He is exactly saying that like even the non-devotees have to meet with Krishna, and they will meet him at the time of death. So everybody ultimately has to surrender to Krishna, whether they like it or not. So if you're a non-devotee, you will surrender at death. I can remember that was the gist of that verse. I cannot remember.
Yes. You find that verse for next time. Everybody is doing dandavat, right? Is a voluntary for the devotees that do dandavat, full obeisance. It's like a stick on the floor. They're doing dandavat many thousands and thousands of times throughout their lives. And the non-devotee, they do involuntary dandavat at the time of death, which is the same kind of meaning. Yes, that is true. Thank you very much, Rashmi. If you can find the verse for next time, that would be great. So, shall we go ahead? Text 15.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
You got your classes?
No, I'll manage without. I don't have them. I'll manage.
Okay.
Yatra dharma suto raja gadapanir vrikodaraha Krishno Shri Gandivam Chapam Surit Krishna Stato Vipat. Translation. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of the demigod controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjun with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. Prabhuji, I just want to read this translation again, if you don't mind. How wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of the demigod controlling religion, Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjun with his mighty weapon Gandiv, and above all the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. Purport. As far as the material or spiritual resources were required, there was no scarcity in the case of the Pandavas. Materially, they were well equipped because two great warriors, namely Bhima and Arjun, were there. Spiritually, the king himself was a symbol of religion, and above all of them, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, was personally concerned with the affairs as the well-wisher. And yet, there were so many reverses on the side of the Pandavas. Despite the power of pious acts, the power of personalities, the power of expert management, and the power of weapons, under the direct supervision of Lord Krishna, the Pandavas suffered so many practical reverses, which can only be explained as due to the influence of Kala, inevitable time. Kala is identical with the Lord himself, and therefore the influence of Kala indicates the inexplicable wish of the Lord himself. There is nothing to be lamented when a matter is beyond the control of any human being.
Okay, thank you, Rashmi. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Well, it is talking about Kala. So these Pandavas, they were so powerful. They were powerful personalities. They had a huge bank balance of pious acts. The Lord himself was with them. Despite that, throughout their lifetime, they kept on suffering. And then when the battle ended also, they lost their 5 sons. Even Parikshit Maharaj attempt was made to kill him. Their brother was killed on the battlefield, Karna. So there were so many reversals. So ultimately, so we may a devotee might think that because we are devotees, nothing wrong, nothing contrary to what we would like to happen to us would happen, because we are with the Lord and the Lord is with us. That's what it would be natural for us to think. However, we must remember that all, time immemorial, all history, if we look at it behind, not only the Pandavas, everywhere, from Prahlad Maharaj to Dhruv to so many other devotees, everybody has suffered. So ultimately, it is the Lord's wish. Maybe the Lord is trying to teach us that we have to learn to tolerate. So tolerance is one of the qualities of a devotee. So we have to tolerate, because we have to understand it is Kala.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as we have heard, Kala is Krishna. It's Krishna's will. So to highlight this point a little bit more, why is Krishna putting the Pandavas to all this trouble? Surely they were fully surrendered souls. They don't need any teaching, but we need teaching. So as an example, which highlights that very same concept, the question has been asked, why when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, the pure devotee, the lieutenant of the holy name, directly deputed by Lord Nityananda, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Why did Srila Prabhupada have to go through so many difficulties for a whole year, not having any place anywhere, having 2 heart attacks on the journey? Why could Krishna not have arranged a flight with Air India and landing in New York, red carpet reception and all of that? So why Krishna put Srila Prabhupada to all these difficulties? Obviously not to test his pure devotees, nor the Lord to test the Pandavas. They already have passed all the tests. But the answer in that case of Srila Prabhupada is, if Srila Prabhupada would have arrived on Air India flight, red carpet, reception and so on and all, then the world would never have known about the surrender of Srila Prabhupada. So it is not to test Srila Prabhupada, it's to teach the world the qualities and the extent of the surrender of his pure devotees. So we would have never known, it would have never come out, Srila Prabhupada's qualities as a pure devotee. So it's the same with the Pandavas. They did not complain for having gone through all such trouble, but the world would never know the extent of the surrender of the Pandavas. Neither would the world know the extent of and strength of remembering Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj, in all these difficulties and all these attempts on his life. So only by going through this trouble, the world and everybody else for eternity knows what Prahlad Maharaj's always constantly remembering Krishna was about, and what Srila Prabhupada's surrender was about, and what the Pandavas' surrender was about. So, teaching us. Okay. One question for you, Rashmi. King Yudhishthira is the son of the demigod controlling religion. Who is that? Or let's ask someone else. Let's ask Dharma. Who is that demigod? Who is the father of King Yudhishthira? Demigod control religion. I know, Rashmi, you know that, so I'll try to see. Dharm. Who is the father of Yudhishthira? Are you there? Or are you struggling with the answer? Okay, then what about Samir? Oh, Dharm. Dharm is on, yes?
Sorry, what was the question? The father of...
The father of... In the translation itself, it says, in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of the demigod controlling religion. So, King Yudhishthira is the son of the demigod controlling religion. Who is Yudhishthira's father? Who is that personality? Who is that demigod controlling religion?
Well, I only know the father of Yudhishthira is Pandu.
Pandu? No.
No.
No, he couldn't conceive. Kunti has that magical incantation. Samir.
Dharmaraj.
Dharmaraj. Yamaraj. Dharma. Because, can you tell us a story? Tell us a story. Briefly, very briefly. Samir.
Sorry, Prabhu, the connection is really bad today.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Okay, your mic is off again. Rashmi, tell us the story, briefly.
Prabhuji, I don't know the story. I just know that Queen Kunti had, she could invoke the demigods, and she had a boon that she could invoke the demigods. And when she invoked them, she asked them for sons. So that way she invoked Yamaraj, she invoked sun god, and so on and so forth. So five demigods she evoked. And that
Do you know the five? Do you know the five?
So Yamaraj is Yudhishthir Maharaj's father. Then sun god is Karna's. No, Lord Indra is Karna's father. Then sun god is Arjun's father.
No. Is it?
Have I got? Is it Indra, Arjun's father, and sun god Karna's father?
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Indra's Arjun's father, who is Bhima's father.
So is it Vayu?
Yes.
Vayu, and then Nakul and Sahadev. I'm not sure. Is it Agni?
No, it's Ashwini twins.
Who's Ashwini?
Ashwini twins, demigods.
They are demigods. Okay.
They're all demigods.
Okay.
Okay, so, Dharm, by that incantation, she invoked Dharma or Yamaraj to come. And so Yamaraj is actually the father of King Yudhishthira. Therefore, it says here, the demigod controlling religion. Dharma, Yamaraj is controlling religion. Okay.
So was Pandu married to Queen Kunti?
Yes, and Madri.
And Madri. Okay. So,
but he was cursed. He was cursed.
Oh.
He couldn't approach his wife because if he would, then he would die immediately.
Oh, so that's why the three sons, the Bhima, Arjun, and they were the
Arjun. Yes.
So,
that was a way around.
Okay. So Arjun was Arjun's father was Indra.
Yes.
And Vayudev was Bhima. And,
Yes.
and quite clearly, Brahmaraj was,
Yudhishthira.
Yudhishthira. Okay, yeah, all right.
Okay, is there anything else to be said to this verse? Oh, one more question. Maybe anybody knows. We had that verse, time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds. Who, a contemporary, maybe some 50 years ago, 60 years ago, who said this, who recited this verse? A very famous scientist, time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds. You wouldn't expect a scientist, a Western scientist, to quote Bhagavad Gita, time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds. Who did that? Anybody knows? Samir? Your mic is on, maybe you know? Rashmi, you know? Anyone?
Is it Einstein?
No, almost. It's not Einstein.
I think is it this American, is it Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer,
that's correct. Oppenheimer. What was the situation where he quoted this Bhagavad Gita verse? What was he responsible for, Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer
was the nuclear bombs, Hiroshima,
yes.
Nagasaki. Yeah.
He was instrumental in developing the nuclear bomb, which was later used, not much later, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of the Second World War. Oppenheimer, he fled, I believe so, he was a German. It sounds German, his name, and he escaped to America. And with his knowledge and expertise, they developed the atomic bomb. And when the test was the first test of the atomic bomb, and it exploded, and then Oppenheimer recited this verse, time I am, the destroyer of all the world. So he knew exactly what he was doing. Okay, let's move on to text 16. Prakash. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prakash. You have to leave, I guess. Yes, it is gone. He's gone. It is very, very late in Delhi. Samir, you want to read text 16? How is your internet connection? You are there, your microphone is on, but I don't hear any sound from you. Can you hear me, Samir? No, I think there are some trouble. Okay. Dharm, you want to read text 16?
Okay, yes, so I'll have a go. 16. Nahayasya.
What?
Nayasya.
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 Because he and asya becomes yasya, one word.
Oh, so it's Nayasya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it becomes one word.
Yes. When there is a Y, we spoke many times. A Y and followed by an A, a vowel like an A, then it's not he or hi, asya, it's hyasya. Hyasya. Just make one word. Take that space out, and then how would you read?
It's just hyasya. So it's
not hyasya. There is no hyasya. Hyasya.
Nayasya.
Hyasya. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So hi asya becomes one word. Yeah.
Yes.
So how
And
does
it sounds like Hyasya.
Hyasya.
Yes.
Hyasya. So Nahyasya.
Yeah.
Okay. Nahyasya Karichit Rajan Puman
Not Rachan. We said last time, I said when there's a line over the A, the stress is on ZA. You read Rachan, that sounds like the stress is on the second A, but the stress is on the first A.
Yeah, so it's Rajan.
Yes.
Rajan. Puman. So it's Puman Veda Vivitsitam Yad Vichiknasyaya.
Gnasya? No, Gyasya, like Gyan. Gyasya, and that word Gyan is inside. Vichigyasaya.
Vichiknasyaya. Yukta Moyanti Kavayo Pihi.
Translation.
O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord Shri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Srila Swami Prabhupada.
Not Srila Swami. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada.
Okay. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The bewilderment of Maharaja Yudhishthira over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority, Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaja Yudhishthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, should ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is to simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The suffering of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishmadeva was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhishthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishmadev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side.
Okay, thank you. If you would highlight a point, what would it be?
Right, it's I'd say it's to be obedient to the instruction of the Lord, to accept it, even though you might inquire or have some philosophical reason to question the plan of the Lord. But I think it's the best policy, according to the passage, just to abide by the instruction of the Lord, be it directly or indirectly.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Of course, another point is, which we just had in the previous verse, Krishna wanted to show the virtue is always victorious over vice. So that is a very interesting and nice way. And Krishna wanted to show also with Bhishma that even a great fighter like Bhishma fighting on the other side, these are all arrangements, and Krishna wanted to show even being such a great fighter on the opposing side, he cannot win the battle because the battle is virtue over evil. And all the warriors on Duryodhana's side, they all have been fighting on account of evil. But here Bhishma, it was just arranged by the Lord to show that that fight, that battle could not be won by the Kauravas. Even Bhishma is there because on account of the evil intentions and of Duryodhana. So that's another very interesting learning point. Okay, let's move on to text 17. Rashmi, are you happy to read text 17?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read. Text 17. Tasmadidam devat taniram
Tantram.
Sorry, yes, I've not got my glasses. I can't see fine words now.
That's what I'm saying.
Tasmadidam tantram vyavasya bharatasribha tasyanu vihito anatha pahi prajaprabho. Translation. O best amongst the descendants of Bharata, Yudhishthir, I maintain therefore that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. Purport. The popular saying is that a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. Similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotee, as in the case of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, it is for teaching the less intelligent men. A devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accept tribulations from the Lord as a benediction. The Pandavas were advised by Bhishma Dev to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor subjects were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting the assumption of power by Maharaj Yudhishthir. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulations as favors from the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no mundane difference between the two.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies many things. You want to say a few words about it?
There's loads of points over here. So one is that even if there are tribulations the Lord is trying to teach us through the example of his associates, of his pure devotees, that though there appears to be apparent suffering and tribulations, how they are tolerating and they are still doing their duty towards the Lord. So it should sit with us. It should sit well with us that if there are tribulations in our life, we have to accept it as either our karma or our or the plan of the Lord, and just continue in a, there should still be nishtha, so that determination is tested when there are tribulations. How actually faithful are we? That Shraddha gets tested at that point. So we have to accept it and tolerate and carry on, not go back, still do our duty. So that's what Bhishma Dev is saying. Do your duty, accept the responsibility of ruling the kingdom. And the other thing here, which second in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, that the pure devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord, because the Lord teaches the sincere devotees always from within. So the devotee, the pure devotee, I think it applies to a pure devotee, that, or to any devotee. I'm not sure who it applies to, but I have come across this several times in various classes, that the Lord is teaching us from within and without. From within, He is teaching us as the Paramatma, as the super soul sitting within our heart. So as our consciousness, our chitta becomes purified, we can learn. That knowledge gets revealed from within. And from outside, from without, it is through teachings of the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and through the Guru. So it's with both within and without that this knowledge gets shown to us, to the devotee.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Some people might ask the question, how do I know within, if Krishna is within and if Krishna teaching within, how do I know it is Krishna or it is my mind who is speaking? What would you say, Rashmi?
So how would you know that it is Krishna teaching from within?
Yes, how do we distinguish? Is my mind, the mind is also talking and Krishna is talking. So how do we know what is what?
See, Prabhuji, actually, I can explain you in my own words what I have understood, that we are actually pure. The Atma is pure. It was supposed to be servant of Krishna, but it got this cover of false ego on it. It forgot its identity. Now, as this dirt clears and this mirror becomes of the chitta, becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, we can hear, we can perceive the Paramatma. At the moment, we are dull. We are too dull to understand that it is the mind speaking or it is the Paramatma speaking. But gradually, I guess, when this mirror of anarthas get clearer, our desires keep reducing, then it all becomes very clear. How Srila Prabhupada, he used to say that he used to keep on reading his own, he's translating all these books, and yet he's keeping on reading them again and again. And he would say, it's not me writing, it's Krishna who has dictated. So actually, that is why I am reading these same verses, this book I have actually written, but actually I have not written because Krishna has written. So because he was a pure devotee, he knew that knowledge was there within him and Krishna had revealed this knowledge. So that's what I feel, but I could be wrong.
Okay, no, very nice. But, I mean, to be practical, if we are not purified enough to 100% know if Krishna is directing us or our mind is directing us. So at the beginning stages of devotional service, how do we distinguish? How do we know? It's important to know, because one may think, oh, Krishna is telling me this, but actually it's a mind. How do we know? What?
But Prabhuji, I'll give you an example from today. We have to always try and remember that this mind is always trying to trick us. Ultimately, it is Maya is working through this mind. So, like, for example, some problem happened and then you don't want to chant. You just want to cocoon and go to sleep if that problem is happening. So now you have to this is the point where I think this, you think the mind is trying to tell you one thing, and then Krishna is trying to tell you the other thing. So now I think this is all this what we are studying and reading. I think we have to now put it into practice, that when something inside you is telling, no, I just need to cocoon and go to sleep, that is the mind tricking you. Ultimately, that anxiety and fear, whatever is it, it is coming from the mind. But Krishna in the heart is telling you, no, you can still get up and chant. I am there for you. So I don't know, Prabhuji, what answer exactly, but this is how I look at it. When something I do which I should not be doing. So if I'm chanting because of trouble has come, that means I don't have faith in Krishna. So what is the point of reading and attending so many classes? So actually I scolded myself that how bad I have behaved. I have allowed some problem to overcome my mind, and then I have listened to this mind and not chanted all day. And so I have shown that actually I have no Shraddha. The first point of devotional service is also not there. So, but when I listen, then I'm listening to the super soul. I'm listening to the Paramatma within. That, no, this is the mind tricking you. Get up and do your duty. So I feel this is how I treated myself today, but I don't know whether I'm right or wrong.
Thank you. Yes, that is all very helpful. That is a factor. So we have to, because the mind is controlled by the intelligence, spiritual intelligence. And the intelligence is composed of whatever we have heard from Krishna, what we have heard in classes, what we have heard in the Sangha, what we have heard from Srila Prabhupada and the Sadhus and the Vaishnavas. That's the intelligence. So if the mind comes up with something, we can compare it by intelligence, what we have heard. And then we know the mind comes up with some excuse or something. I never heard that. Srila Prabhupada is not talking like that. So the Bhagavatam is not talking like that. So we can easily, even at the beginning stages, distinguish it comes from the mind or it comes from the super soul in the heart. It comes from the super soul within the heart, then that is corroborated by Shastra and by Guru. So knowledge and hearing from the right sources, it's ever so important that what we're doing, we're studying the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it sharpens our spiritual intelligence. Of course, there is also material intelligence. When the intelligence is used by the senses and our material desires, the intelligence is always distinguishing, accepting, rejecting. The mind is doing that also, yes. So we normally, without spiritual intelligence, we accepting things which feels good for the body and the mind, and rejecting things which are hard for the mind and for the body. But spiritual intelligence does the same thing, but with the goal, accepting everything favorable for devotional service, rejecting anything unfavorable for devotional service. So, there we know what is coming from the mind, what is, I think everybody knows. There can be some tricky situations where we may be doubtful. Is it material? Is it spiritual? Therefore, hearing from the authorized sources is ever so important, because we sharpen our intelligence and we cannot be misled. Hare Krishna. Samir, you are back. Welcome back. I hope it's working this time. We are on text. We have done just text 17. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Prabhu.
Okay, that seems to be better. Can you take on text 18?
Yes, Prabhu, but because I left, is it possible just to post it on the chat?
Yes, you're on your mobile in your browser, right?
Yeah, I mean
you have an address bar in top of your browser, and it says 1, 9, 12 or whatever. It says deletes the 12 and puts the 18 in, and immediately will jump without having to go next. That is for everyone.
And you want 18, is it?
18, please.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I've got a question before you start.
Yes.
Could I mention mind and consciousness?
Not mind and consciousness, mind and super soul.
Right, because Krishna says, it is always think of me, fix your mind on me. That's a Bhagavad Gita verse.
Manmana bhava mad bhakto.
Yes, it's manava bhav. Yeah, mad bhav. Then he also says, Machita madgata prana. The consciousness of my devotee is fixed on me. But in a sense, well, in a kind of functional sense, we can say that mind and consciousness are similar, but technically there's a difference. Because
no, mind and consciousness are quite different.
Yeah, there's a technical difference, but Krishna says... so
what's the question? What's the question, Dan?
The question is, Krishna says, fix my mind on me, but he also says, fix my consciousness on me as well. I think it's chapter Bhagavatam 10:9, if I go and look at it somewhere.
But what's the question?
What's the difference between... so when Krishna says, fix your mind on me, and then he says, fix your consciousness on me, what's the difference? What are you actually fixing on Krishna then? You can fix your mind, but what is your consciousness then?
You fix your mind on Krishna as a consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Simple as that. You're conscious of Krishna. Yes, they are very similar, mind and consciousness. Fix your mind on Krishna, that is called Krishna consciousness.
So Prabhuji, mind is not same as what he's right. Mind and consciousness are different. Mind
That's
is
what I said,
mana,
yes.
But consciousness is the chitta. Consciousness is, so what gives dull matter life? So if your soul was to leave this body, if the soul, this matter becomes just not, it's just dull matter. So that's the what is that which is giving consciousness to this body? The soul. Otherwise, it is just dull matter. So when the soul is present, that's consciousness. The soul pervades your entire body, and that is consciousness. Now, when that soul is engaged in Krishna's service, that chitta, the other word for it is chitta, that consciousness is Krishna consciousness. So
and the mind, what is a mind? Say something about the mind.
Mind is so you've got your 5 working senses, and then you've got mind. Mind is a sense. It's a sense. It's one of the senses which controls the other 5 working senses. So it's there are various parts of that same body, but they have different functions. I cannot explain it better to you, Dham, but it's like, the soul, the eyes have one function, the leg has another function, that way. So like that, the mind also has a function. The mind will follow your senses wherever it is going. So when the eyes will run after the nice picture, the mind will run after it. Then there is the intelligence. So you, by your intelligence, you tell your mind that, no, control yourself. Don't do that. And in that same chariot, so if you can see a chariot, okay, I'll explain you in the form of a chariot. There is this chariot driven by 5 horses. So I'm explaining you what my Mataji has explained to us. There is a chariot and there are 5 horses. So these horses are your senses, your ears, eyes, etc. Now these horses have got this rein. Okay, so the rein is the mind. And who is holding on to that rein? It's your intelligence. So he's your driver. He's the capital of that chariot. He's the capital, he's the main person who's driving that chariot. And who's sitting in that chariot? It's your consciousness, your soul. The soul along with its co-passenger who sits quietly. That is your Paramatma. So you can see the soul, the consciousness is higher than the mind, higher than the intelligence, which is higher than the mind, which is higher than the senses. So there is a gradation. Fortunately, there is a gradation. So Krishna is telling us that there is a gradation of all this. It's there in the 3rd chapter towards the end. It's very nicely explained. If you will read that, you will understand this difference.
So if you have in common Hindu yogic philosophy, you've got Sat Chit Ananda. So Chit means the consciousness, but Sat means as far as it's truth, absolute. So it's Krishna Sat.
Sat is eternal.
Yes. So Sat is. Can you think of Krishna as Sat because he's truth, he's absolute being, and he's enduring, he's unchanging. So he's the absolute being or his absolute existence. So there's nothing beyond Sat, and he's the original. So you can think of Krishna as Sat, and then you have your Chit, which is the consciousness, which is the original faculty of the soul. And so when Krishna sits in your heart, that consciousness is triggered. That's what is called Krishna consciousness. But you use your intelligence to understand it. So
you see, Dharm, that there is a difference between consciousness and mind. In that sense, mind is just a material element. Consciousness is fully spiritual. Mind is a material element. It's bhumi aponalu, vayo nalu, it's 4 material gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. 5 material gross, and the subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. That's all material up till that point. And then after that comes consciousness, the soul.
But you can't understand Krishna with your mind. You have to understand it with your Chit, which is your understanding, comprehension.
The mind can help. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the Gita, the mind is the best friend of the also worst enemy. So depending how we use the mind.
Okay.
If the mind is driven by spiritual intelligence, then the mind is our best friend. If the mind is driven by material desire, is our worst enemy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, we leave it here. Thank you very much. Samir, text 18.
Hare Krishna. Esa ve Bhagavan Saksad Adyo Narayana Puman Mohayan Mayaya Lokam Kudas Karati
No, Charati.
Charati.
Not Ka, Cha.
Kudas Karati. Translation and the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This Shri Krishna is no other than the inconceivable, original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayan, the supreme enjoyer, but he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni. He is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, just like one of us, and he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. Purport. The Vedic system of acquiring knowledge is the deductive process. Vedic knowledge is received perfectly by disciple succession from authorities. Such knowledge is never dogmatic, as ill-conceived by less intelligent persons. The mother is the authority to verify the identity of the father. She is the authority for such confidential knowledge. Therefore, authority is not dogmatic. In Bhagavad Gita, this truth is confirmed in the second verse of the 4th chapter, and the perfect system of learning is to receive it from authority. The very same system is accepted universally as truth, but only the false arguer speaks against it. For example, modern spacecraft fly in the sky, and while scientists say that they travel to the other side of the moon, men believe these stories blindly because they have accepted the modern scientists as authorities. The authorities speak, and the people in general believe them. But in the case of Vedic truths, they have been taught not to believe. Even if they accept them, they give a different interpretation. Each and every man wants a direct perception of Vedic knowledge, but foolishly they deny it. This means that the misguided men can believe one authority, the scientist, but will reject the authority of the Vedas. The result is that people have degenerated. Here is the authority speaking about Sri Krishna as the original personality of Godhead and first Narayan. Even such an impersonalist as Acharya Sankarya has said in the beginning of his commentation on the Bhagavad Gita that Narayan, personality of Godhead, is beyond material creation. The universe is one of the material creations, but Narayan is transcendental to such material paraphernalia. Vishnudev is one of the 12 Mahajans who know the principles of transcendental knowledge. His confirmation of Lord Shri Krishna being the original personality of Godhead is also corroborated by the impersonalist Sankarya. All other acharyas have also confirmed this statement, and thus there is no chance of not accepting Lord Krishna as the original personality of Godhead. Vishnudev says that he is the first Narayan. This is also confirmed by Brahmaji in the Bhagavatam 10:14. Krishna is the first Narayan. In the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, there are unlimited number of Narayans, are all the same personality of Godhead and are considered to be plenary expansions of the original personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. The first form of the Lord, Shri Krishna, first expands as the form of Baladev, and Baladev expands in so many other forms, such as Sankarsan, Pradumna, Anuradha, Vasudev, Narayan, Purusha, Ram, and Nrsimha. All these expansions, one and the same Vishnu Tattva, and Shri Krishna is the original source of all plenary expansions. He is therefore the direct personality of Godhead. He is the creator of the material world, and he is the predominating deity, known as Narayan in all the Vaikuntha planets. Therefore, his movements amongst human beings are another sort of bewilderment. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita that foolish persons consider him to be one of the human beings without knowing the intricacies of his movements. The bewilderment regarding Shri Krishna is due to the actions of his twofold, eternal and external energies upon the third one, called marginal energy. The living entities are expansion of this marginal energy, and thus they are sometimes bewildered by the internal and sometimes by the external energy. By internal energetic bewilderment, Shri Krishna expands himself into unlimited number of Narayans and exchanges or accepts transcendental living service from the living entities in the transcendental world. And by his external energetic expansion, he incarnates himself in the material world amongst the men, animals, or demigods. to re-establish his forgotten relation with the living entities in different species of life. Great authorities like Bhishma, however, escape his bewilderment by the mercy of the Lord.
Okay, thank you, Samir. Just one pronunciation. Shankarya. No, it's not Shankarya, it's Shankara. Shankaracharya. Right? So, can you say a few words? It's a quite longish purport with beautiful points. Just pick something and talk a bit about it.
Okay. So, the Lord here is saying that Krishna is the original Supreme Personality, and from there he expands himself into Baladev, and from Baladev then the other incarnations occur from Baladev. And it's also speaking about, obviously, people of today. They believe the scientists, but they don't believe the actual Vedas. They have no faith in what the Vedas are telling them, but they will believe that what the scientists are telling them. And you've got the energy of the internal and the external energies of the Lord, which are bewildering the human race. What else can I say?
Okay. Yes?
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll stop there.
There is, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita that foolish persons consider him to be one of the human beings without knowing the intricacies of his movements. What Bhagavad Gita verse is Srila Prabhupada referring to? That's a question for everyone. Foolish persons consider him to be one of the human beings. Devandra, Dharm, your camera is on. Okay, that's better. So what's the Bhagavad Gita verse? Anyone? Rashmi, Samir, Dharm. What's the Bhagavad Gita verse? Can we find out?
Is it fools deride me, is it?
That is nice. What's the verse?
I think it's 9:11. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form.
What's the verse? Can anyone find that verse? Rashmi.
Prabhuji, which chapter it is? I can't. I think is it fourth chapter? I think.
I don't know.
Transcendental knowledge chapter.
9:11. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Samir, you were spot on. Yes. Who finds it quicker? 9:11.
I've got it here. Shall I read it?
Okay, please read.
Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be.
Yes, that was spot on, Samir. Do you remember that verse? Where did you remember that verse from? And even that little bit, fools deride me. Because once you know a little bit, fools deride me, it's easy to search for it. Avachayanti mamudha. How did you remember that, Samir? Fools deride me, that little bit.
I think, you know what it happens to me? Sometimes I get inspired, and then sometimes I don't.
Say it again. We couldn't hear you, breaking up a bit. Sometimes it happened.
I said sometimes I get inspired and sometimes I don't.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes to me.
Sometimes a memory comes. You have heard that before somewhere. Yes. Okay. So that is a verse referring to. Is there anything to be said to this verse?
Prabhuji, I want to share, I can share something regarding this verse. You know the bit
Please.
which Samir Prabhu read about, in the purport about Brahmaji?
Yeah.
Lord Brahma is, cannot remember what Samir read, but just yesterday in Chaitanya Charitamrita class, we have done exactly this. So Brahma is now trying to, he's stolen those boys and all of that entire pastime which we know. So now he's trying to please Krishna, he's asking for forgiveness. So he's telling Krishna that you are the Supreme Personality, you are the Father, so you are my Father. So Krishna is saying, no, I am not your father. I'm a coward boy. I am born in Nanda Maharaj's house. How can you call me your father? So Krishna is not accepting Brahmaji's prayer. And now Brahmaji is trying to basically appease Krishna. So he's trying to tell him in the next nearly 10-15 verses, it goes on how Brahmaji is trying to explain to Krishna that no, you are the Supreme Personality and you are none other than Narayan. So Narayan is the Krishna in the office, and he is Krishna in the office. So Narayan with a suit and everything is Krishna, and in his cowherd dress is Krishna. So that's what Brahmaji is telling him, and then he's trying to tell Krishna, no, you've forgotten. Remember, from you came Sankarshan. From Sankarshan came the Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Shirodakshai Vishnu, and yet Krishna is not happy. He is giving all these in various verses, but yet Krishna is not accepting. So now Krishna will. Then what Brahmaji does, he gives him reasons now why I am calling you. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the father of every living entity. And because you are my father also, Brahma, I am your son, then you have to forgive me. So basically this, it is, apparently it's quite a famous one, because in Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is explaining, has spent pretty much 15-20 verses on it.
Beautiful. Krishna didn't accept it. Hare Krishna. Yes, one has to please Krishna, and then Krishna will accept everything from his devotees. Okay, that is beautiful. That is very nice. On this verse, we're stopping here. We have a little bit time for sharing. I want to share a little story which has turned out quite extraordinary. You may remember that English teacher on the neighbor in my garden, in my allotment garden, Nigel. He started off, we talked, he's new there, he bought just that, his plot, and so I'm next to there, and so we talked, and he was interested in Hinduism and just open-minded. He was a science teacher, he's retired, and so I copied him an article from the Origins magazine on consciousness, and photocopied it. At some later point, I gave it to him, and he was very happy. So we talked on these matters, and at one point he said he is reading something about Upanishads. Okay, that was a cue and the clue. So next time I gave him Sri Ishopanishad, and he was very happy. And because he comes from the science side, quantum mechanics and all quantum theory, So I don't know how he managed that. He said a particular verse in the Upanishad that is exactly what quantum mechanics, quantum theory is telling her. Okay, so here we go. He found a connection between his science and the Upanishad. I don't know how much he read of the Upanishad, because if he reads the entire Upanishad, he should get a good idea of Krishna consciousness. From the viewpoint of the Upanishads, which are an impersonal way of putting it. So, and I thought at that point, give him a Bhagavad Gita is a little bit too much at this point. So, I gave him instead, after we have been friendly forth and back and discussing bits and pieces, and I gave him Sundar's book, The Code of Dharma. I thought that is a non-threatening, non-religious, modern way of connecting with a Western mind and so on. And next day, he came and he said, he loves this book. He absolutely loves this book. He immediately ordered it on Amazon. I borrowed him my book. Sundar's book, The Code of Dharma. So he bought it on Amazon, and before you knew, he was sitting with his family, his wife, and the three boys, in the corner in his garden, and they discussed the various chapters of the Code of Dharma, non-violence, truthfulness, different headings, and he absolutely loved it. And within a couple of days, he had devoured the whole book. So, I mean, here for progress. Then I thought, I wish to give him the Bhagavad Gita, but how can I do this? This is a big step. And then one day, this is all over a period. It's not just in a few days. This goes over a couple of months. So little by little by little. Then he revealed to me he bought a Bhagavad Gita by some impersonalist. Not very thick, very thin little booklet. And I thought, oh dear, what now? Then I thought and meditated at home, and I thought to myself, now it's a time to give him Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And because he mentioned he cannot understand the point of worship. Worship, he heard about worship. Because if there is a supreme being, then he wouldn't need our worship. So I said to him, that might be, but maybe we need it. Anyway, we kept it like that. Then I thought, okay, I'll give him, I will prepare the full Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And I gave him the edited version purposely because it has some nice modern pictures which appeal to him. Because he mentioned also when you see pictures of Vishnu, which he has seen somewhere, it appears like a children's cartoon. So he didn't have much appreciation of that. But that Bhagavad Gita, which we removed from the temple and we put the original Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita instead. So this Bhagavad Gita, the edit has some for modern and academic, very nice paintings in and. And it's there with the Sanskrit, with the word for word, with a translation, with a commentary. So I said just a few days back, I said, Nigel, you mentioned Bhagavad Gita yesterday. So I have here a version of the Bhagavad Gita. I have been reading Bhagavad Gita for so many years, and he doesn't know Hare Krishna on my position there. And there is not time yet for that, and there's no need. So I said, I have accumulated many Bhagavad Gitas and many editions, and that is for you. Oh, really, really? And I said, you can keep it. Oh, no, yes, really. He really, right from the start, appreciated that. And I not sold him the idea. I gave it to him and I said, you see, this is the original Bhagavad Gita. It has a Sanskrit. It has, because he mentioned before, people interpret. So I said, this is the original Bhagavad Gita. The Sanskrit is there. The word for word is there. The translation is there, the commentary is there, a glossary is in the back, an index of verses in the back, a pronunciation guide is in the back, and this Bhagavad Gita is used in universities all around the world. He was impressed, and he was extremely grateful. And he has taken that Bhagavad Gita, and I said, that will last you a lifetime. It's not armchair philosophy, and he agrees. It's a practical guide. And he said, yes, character building and like that. Yes, like that. So that's where we are. From a simple discussion, and Krishna has arranged, and he has Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and he will study that. And he has gone on holiday now, and he has taken Bhagavad Gita with him. And he said, when I have some questions, I will ask you. He said to me, you are some kind, he knows I'm vegetarian and this and that, and don't drink alcohol. And he said, you are some kind of yogi. And I said, yes, I live some kind of yogi lifestyle. So here we are. Beautiful story, but it's not at all the end of it. Hare Krishna. I hope you like that account. Anyone else has something to share? We're running only 2 minutes late.
Prabhuji, for this gentleman, in my hospital chapel, the Bhagavad Gita of, as it is Bhagavad Gita of Prabhupada, there's loads and loads of copies, and I got one home for me. It is the edited version, but what I liked about it was, in the beginning, I don't know whether it's the same one, it has got orange color cover.
There's so many different versions, so many different.
So in the beginning, that those things are there, like in every chapter, it's like, in the beginning it said chapter 1. So, okay, chapter 2, for example, what is the soul? Text this, chapter this, text this. So it's telling you to these are the questions and where you will find the answers to these questions. So if you want,
I think I know which version that is. It gives a bold heading of the yoga chapter, and then it gives a short paragraph and explanation what it is. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's like, in the beginning, after the introduction and just before the introduction, it's got a little like a glossary. But the glossary, what I liked about it is like, if you are suppose somebody's asking the question that where can I find the soul? What is the proof that there is a soul? Then that question is written, and then which Bhagavad Gita verse to find this, that answer, the page number is given. So if you want, nice. I can get you a copy for him.
Okay, nice, yes, very nice. Obviously, there are devotees trying to really pondering over how to get people engaged with Krishna consciousness. Okay, great. Anyone else has Samir? Anything? Yes, hands up. Samir, okay, your turn.
Yeah,
are you temple president by now?
No,
not yet. Okay.
I just wanted to say that it was very nice the way you handled it. Instead of rushing, you did it quite nicely, and that's very, very inspiring.
I actually did not know, Samir. I did not know how to handle it. It just one thing led to another thing here. I had the desire to give him the Bhagavad Gita, but I just felt the time was not ripe until he said, I bought a Bhagavad Gita. And he had even difficulties, a Bhagavad Gita. And so that was a cue. And so, Krishna arranged, and I just responded whatever along the line. Now he got it done, job done.
Yes, I hope he appreciates it and.
He appreciates it. He made a gesture, just on the strength of having him explain. There is a Sanskrit, a word for word, a translation, a commentary, a bibliography, and all really very appealing, scientific and academic. And then he took his little book of Bhagavad Gita from some academic, he said. Which had only, I guess, I looked over his shoulder, the translation, nothing word for word, no Sanskrit, no commentary and nothing. And he made a gesture as of throwing it away. And I said, oh, no, just read both. I didn't want to tell him, so forget this one. No, if he wants to read that, but soon he will. I mean, he got an appreciation. This is, of course, the authorized, the original version. And on the strength of that, yes, Krishna will guide him. I have no doubts.
And I suppose when you go back to the programs at the temple, then maybe you can invite him as well.
Oh, that is long time offer. That is long time off. He can get his head around of worship. People are. He's not necessarily. Religion doesn't appeal to him. He's a Westerner. Religion doesn't appeal to him. But spirituality does. And knowledge does. He's a typical example of a Westerner who. Self-realization, knowing the self. I said within the conversation. After all, the self. We are like the driver in the car. He didn't protest of any of this, but he can't get his head around worship and I guess religion. It doesn't need to be. You can go a long way without that. Okay.
Yes, for sure. Okay, Hare Krishna.
So we stop here because we're running over time, 8 minutes. That was a beautiful session, even though we were very few here. Thank you very much, Samir. Thank you very much, Rashmi, and for your insight, and particularly the insight into Chaitanya Charitamrita and Brahma. That is very nice. And thank you, Dharma, and for your question. And Hare Krishna. We'll see you all back on Wednesday. Hopefully we have Ben back and Vaishana back and others. Okay. Hare Krishna.